Ladies and gentlemen, it is your next level wrestling review. We're talking NXT August 12th, 2020, as we build towards TakeOver 30. And today we have a special guest with us on the next level wrestling review. Before I once again introduce my co-host Colin, we have the man himself, Piers Austin, from the Wrestling with Tragedy podcast. Piers, it is great to have you today. How are you doing, my friend?
Man, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to sit here and talk about some wrestling, man. I've just rewatched NXT from the other day or yesterday, and it's man, I can't wait to get into it, man. I'm really excited. Thank you.
Absolutely, us too. Now, let me ask before we start talking about, because I do want to have an opportunity to have you discuss your podcast, which I think is a excellent platform and a really cool thing that you all are doing. But do you watch NXT regularly, or was this the first time in a while that you'd watch this program?
No, I watch NXT every week. I watch Raw every week. I watch Smack. I can't get enough wrestling, man. Seriously.
Okay, that's good though.
Yeah.
Because full disclosure, as I always tell our listeners, I watch as much as I can, and well, I don't watch as much as I can. I guess I lied. I watch as much as I am required to by my podcasting duties. And that's not that I don't enjoy, but also being a healthcare provider and running other companies. It's just, you only have so many hours in the day. So for my context, so this will be good. I'm glad though, because I see this through the lens of just NXT. I hear things about Raw and SmackDown and try to keep up with what's going on, as well as AEW. But the two programs I've watched consistently are this and Impact, because it is one of the things I have to do each week as far as reviewing these shows. So I'm glad, at least hopefully you can provide some context for us. Colin, remind me. I know, go ahead.
Sorry. No, okay.
I was going to say, Colin, I know you do Smack Attack. Do you keep up with Raw as well?
No, only through the Wednesday locker room.
Okay, gotcha. But this is good though. I like to be able to have, different context, because ideally, anyone that is watching the program is going to be watching it through different contexts. Some might watch all WWE programming. Some might only watch one show versus another. Some might watch other wrestling programs. So it's good to at least have the context that you'll be able to provide, because a lot of times I don't have that context, which on one end I like, because I feel like I can really appreciate this show for what it is on its own without comparing it to Raw or SmackDown. But other times I still would like to at least have a little more of that context as far as being able to compare what's going on this show versus what's going on the other programming, because it is kind of good to still look within the product and see what else is going on and what is, I guess, standing out amongst all the other programming. But speaking of programming, before we get into that, I do want an opportunity for you, if you don't mind, to talk about a little bit about what is Wrestling with Tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. So Wrestling with Tragedy, we're now up to episode 17. So what Wrestling with Tragedy is, we explore the deep, dark underbelly of professional wrestling. So the tragedies that have occurred, and we're not talking storylines like, when the invasion angle happened, what a tragedy. No, it's more of like the actual tragedies that happened in real life to people involved in the world of professional wrestling, whether they be professional wrestlers, promoters, managers, valets. And we also look at scandals as well. So scandals, also crimes as well. We've got one planned that coming up, which we dive into the underbelly, where we look at the mafia's involvement in professional wrestling. As you look at, when Vince McMahon Sr. was there, the 1960s, the mafia was heavily involved in that New York area where Madison Square Garden is. But it's really for us to sort of come together and really sort of break these down and dissect these incidents that have occurred, or these tragedies, or these scandals that have occurred, and give it from a different perspective. So it's hosted by myself, Angel Medina, who is the former ECW original. People will remember him he was the leader of DeBaldi, so he was the Kingpin Angel. And also my other co-host, who's one of my other really close friends, much like Angel is Kevin Rodriguez. So the three of us really sort of built this together and have that strong chemistry where we can really go in and dig deep into these things, but also not having a monotonous show, which is just like, wow, this show is kind of depressing. Like, we try and mix some form of humor into it while being respectful. It's not like we're taking dark humor or anything like that, but it's little bits like that to break it up, which we really sort of show that, yes, this is something tragic, but we also can have a good time, and we deviate from that sometimes as well, which is it's all relative though when we deviate. So we go into different sort of aspects of it, and then we always wind it back into what we're discussing. So,
and obviously you're an impassioned wrestling fan, but you're not just a wrestling fan, in that you also are able to bring some life experience into the fold to be able to kind of do a deep dive into some of this subject matter. I know you were telling us a little bit prior to going on the air, just some of your background and your co-host background. If you don't mind, kind of expand on that a little bit as far as some of the things, some of your background that you kind of utilize to break down some of these stories.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier before we went live, that Kevin Rodriguez is a current law enforcement officer. Angel Medina is a former police officer. Myself, I have a background being like the first responder to incidents and that sort of stuff. So, and also, dealing with different aspects of people that are, pose a threat to an asset and stuff like that. So it gives it a different perspective on a lot of the crime sort of stuff, because that's what we've all sort of been around and stuff like that, and seeing people under the influence and understanding what their mentality may be at certain points and why they're acting like this while they're doing this, and how much help was available to them, and just dissecting them down from all different aspects and avenues.
Most wrestling fans should know who ECW's Angel is, but if you don't, this guy's been around since the heyday of ECW. He's been around forever. He's a wealth of knowledge, and certainly hearing things from his perspective, and some of I'm sure some of his experience probably with some of the people that you all have an opportunity to discuss. He's able to bring that into the fold and kind of do more of a deep dive on what's going on. So I'd say certainly if you're a fan of wrestling, or you're interested in some of these stories that you all are deep diving into, to me, it sounds like it's a great, I think the timing's perfect, because you look at the popularity of Dark Side of the Ring that are exploring these stories, and you all are kind of taking similar stories, and probably to some extent, I imagine there's some crossover, but doing that deep dive into it and allowing a chance to have a conversation about the why and the background. I think it's really interesting, and I definitely would encourage people to check it out. Where can they find Wrestling with Tragedy?
They can find it on the Vince Russo Network on YouTube. We're currently working towards putting it on Twitch and also other podcasting platforms as well, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. We're in the process of getting all that sort of put together as well. And look, as you mentioned, Angel as well. Angel is a very intelligent guy, and obviously he has a wealth of knowledge of the world of pro wrestling, as does Kevin as well. Like, these two are two of my best friends in the world, and the fact that we're able to come together, and these guys are so knowledgeable and they bring so much to the table about this show, it's definitely worth the watch. It's definitely worth checking out. You can also find us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Wrestle Tragedy. And we're on Facebook as well, which is Wrestling with Tragedy there. So, come check us out, guys.
Absolutely. Be sure to check out Wrestling with Tragedy everywhere you can get your podcasts, for sure. I think it's a really cool concept, and I'm excited to listen to the stories you all are going to tell, as well as the context behind it. And I think it's just some cool stuff you all are doing over there. So be sure to check out Wrestling with Tragedy whenever you get a chance. And of course, we are also joined alongside my co-host, my teacher's aide, if you will, the man himself, Colin Wysong. Now, Colin, it looks like you got a group of miscreants behind you that are causing a ruckus in the classroom. Can you explain yourself?
Yeah, I had to keep the Undisputed Era after class for detention. They just caused a ruckus at the Performance Center, and they're definitely in trouble. They had to sit through lunch, and now they're staying after school for about an hour.
I have to ask you, Colin, did you do your homework this week?
Yeah, I definitely did the homework. I was excited to do this. We were talking about Legado del Fantasma, Breezango, Drake Maverick. Like, what's next for these guys? Kind of just book.
Well, I guess I should start with that. Yeah, it's for those that are tuning in for the first time. Every week we do assign homework, which kind of funny because it kind of happened out of nowhere. I think, Colin, you literally just at the end of a show one day asked if we had any homework, and just on the spot we came up with homework, and I thought it was going to be a one-time thing, but people have really taken to the homework. I never thought people would enjoy homework, but I guess when you're getting a chance to to play Booker and really talk about wrestling and express your own ideas as far as what you would like to see on the television screen. I think people are really getting behind that, and it's really cool to read some of these ideas. And actually, I have to say, overall, even though I do get nitpicky with some of it, I've been overall really impressed with some of the just creativity and ideas you all are sending in. So thank you all everyone for tuning in. And of course, at the end of the show, make sure you stay tuned to the end. We will assign another homework assignment, but this week's assignment was, so we've seen last week Legado del Fantasma attack Breezango. And so really the homework was to try to book out this feud between them leading up into TakeOver 30. So Colin, you did complete your homework, didn't wait till the last minute. I appreciate that. What are your thoughts? Can you present your homework to the class?
Yeah. So my whole thoughts and intentions were, we were probably going to see, Fandango laid up just because they beat him up. The last we saw, basically Fandango was getting beat up and Tyler Breeze was coming out to save him. So Fandango's down. Fandango's out. Tyler Breeze is going to have to, look for some help. In comes Drake Maverick because he's got that feud. He's going to go to him. He knows him. He's comfortable with him. And while they're trying to still kind of figure out, like, I'd like to see some vignettes because I feel like that's where Breezango, like, I don't know if you remember the police files thing that they were doing when they were doing the fashion files. They always have great, like, little backstage things. So maybe they can do some kind of like star search where they're looking for like that third person. But in the end, it's going to be Swerve Scott. Swerve Scott ends up kind of, we've already seen a little bit of Legado del Fantasma coming after him. Swerve holds that loss or that win over of Santos. So, you would have him come in maybe, like, hey guys, I heard y'all were looking for somebody, maybe I can come help you. And those guys get the upper hand and maybe we see Fandango, maybe they finally get to that match at TakeOver 30 and Fandango is able to come out and maybe helps the good guys get a leg up on Legado del Fantasma by some kind of dastardly means. Maybe he gets the distraction. Maybe he's able to help in like a 3-on-1 situation where maybe they're able to get Scott down and get Maverick down and they're just working on Tyler Breeze. And eventually we see maybe this feud carry over to the next TakeOver just a little bit longer because, like you said, there's those 4 guys. There's a lot that can go on there. And eventually I would like to see out of this Scott get that push kind of above Breezango with them kind of in the background and of course Drake Maverick there. But I still feel like we got to get to Drake Maverick getting his, like, the whole story. I still feel like the loose ends of the Drake Maverick storyline are still kind of out there. So this could still end up to leading to Drake Maverick getting that title shot. Or possible something going on there with Drake getting that title shot.
Certainly. So I like it. So in your mind, this continues beyond TakeOver 30.
Yeah, I think it can continue beyond TakeOver 30. Yeah, because we're still establishing Santos and Legado del Fantasma really as this nasty, like, cartel type group that they have, and especially with the Undisputed Era still kind of running amok. Give them maybe 1 or 2 more takeovers and they'll probably be finished with their business in NXT and we can actually see Fantasma. I'm going to take a saying from Cameron Grimes, take it to the moon.
Cameron Grimes might be going to the moon based on what we saw, which we'll talk about that when we get there. But one thing that you brought up, Colin, that actually I really like the idea of, although I almost feel like at this point the heat has been turned up past the silliness of it, but I still think Breezango could pull it off potentially. But I love the idea of a star search for them to try to find their third partner, because right now, and that's where anytime wrestling can correlate with what's going on in society. So what's popular is American Idol and all these other audition shows, or America's Got Talent and all those other things. But that plays right into it, and that's a perfect way where you can utilize an ongoing story to also shine other people on the roster and allow some of these people who don't get as much TV time to show some character while they're auditioning, like they're doing something for American Idol or America's Got, one of those shows.
Breezango's Got Talent.
Breezango's got talent. There you go. And so the Breezango talent search. Piers, do they have something like that down in the land of Oz as far as any of those type of shows?
Yeah, I mean, we've got shows like the Blind Audition, the what is it called? Australia's Got Talent. We had what was the one where they're all got the Voice as well. So there's always like those sort of shows down here as well. So, but we get the best of both worlds. So we get the US and we get the Australian stuff. So.
Awesome. So it's definitely universal. It's something that people across the globe could be like, okay, I get it. This is just like watching one of those shows, but they're doing it in wrestling style. And I think that you could run that for a few weeks and have a lot of fun with. And like I said, that'd be a great way to shine other people on the roster while still, in a sense, continuing that angle. What were you going to say, Colin?
I dated a girl whose aunt was a judge on Vietnamese, like American Idol.
Really?
Yeah, she was the Paula Abdul. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Paula Abdul of the judges, yeah.
We might have to get her on the show. Now, Piers, I know you weren't aware of the homework till about an hour before we went on the air, so I'd certainly don't want to put you on the spot, but certainly if you had any ideas as far as what these guys could do going into TakeOver 30, did you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, look, I think, going into TakeOver 30, I agree with what Colin was saying, vignettes, especially now with, the whole, in lockdown sort of stuff, vignettes are probably going to be the smartest way to build this feud, those backstage promos. I like the idea of that, what Colin was saying about Swerve coming out and being the guy as well. I definitely agree. I think Isaiah Swerve Scott, I always call him Shane Strickland because I'm such a huge Strickland fan. But yeah, no, I think he would definitely be the one guy I can see leading that charge. Phantasmo's, new character change with the cartel. I think that, really sort of start building him up to be like a psychotic, just absolute ruthless killer. And you know what I mean? And having these two guys with him just being like the complete henchmen that just go and destroy people. And I thought that was great how they did the unmasking. I think just needs to keep that intensity, really intense promos. If they can get the heels get the attack, taking out Drake, and it's, off to the races, man.
Yeah. And not only does he bring that intensity, it's about maintaining too, because I think a lot of times what happens, especially when wrestlers are newer, is sometimes they have those moments where you can even see it in their facials, like the character drops for a second because they're thinking about either what they're going to say next or what they're going to do next in the ring. But you could tell Escobar, he's seasoned. He maintains the character the entire time. And because of that, it makes him not only more believable, but it makes you want to be more emotionally invested in what he's doing and what he's talking about because he's able to bring that intensity. So I like that. I'm glad that was something that you brought up and picked up on because that is something I agree with.
Thank you.
So Ted, they talk a lot about this on some of the other shows and things where, and Piers may know what I'm getting at. A lot of people say like the WWE, the main roster, they screw up a lot of the Hispanic superstars. I mean, look at like Andrade Cien Almas right now. Angel Garza can definitely be a star, but like look at the ones that they have gotten over, like an Eddie Guerrero or Rey Mysterio. Yeah, they came in with some clout, but they spoke really, really good English. And that's the one thing about Fantasma is he speaks really good English and the Spanish. And like you said, he has it all. So I think if they were able to get him to the main roster, he could be that Mexican superstar that they're able to like really, really push on that main roster because one, he can speak English and he can speak Spanish and get over with the Hispanic culture there. Unlike, Almas is a great worker, great hand. It's just that the language barrier there. And you're seeing it with guys like Shinsuke and Asuka. A lot of those Japanese stars, they have the issues with the language barrier. So I think with Fantasma, I mean, give him his little bit of time here in NXT, but I don't think he needs to be down here very long. I mean, he is already seasoned to be able to be on that main roster.
Yeah.
But to that point, we also have to think developmental is also for not just for Escobar, it's for everyone else too. And so that's where I'm kind of in between. I agree he could go up to the main roster now. I also feel like having him in NXT for a little bit and have the opportunity to work with some of these guys to help bring them up, because truly the only way to truly get better as a wrestler is to wrestle people that are better than you. And so I think having him in NXT, at least for a little while, is very valuable to the other members of the roster, because they'll have an opportunity to at least work with him in the ring and kind of learn that timing and everything else that goes along with being a wrestler. And so I agree that I hopefully he won't be in NXT too long, simply because he will be a good addition to the main roster, but I hope they don't rush him up either. So that way he can have an opportunity to work with some other guys on the roster and help to bring them up hopefully closer to his level.
But also, I think it's important that, you know, they build his character up as well. Like, it's still a very new thing on WWE television. You know, like, you know, I agree with you. I don't think he needs to be there for 12 months, but I think I see him being there for the next 3 to 6 months at least.
Certainly, yeah.
Well, and I had one more rumor thing. So we have a rumor mole at the Hameen Media discussion group, and he posts some great rumors, Piers, and a lot of times he's dead on. He posted a thing saying that look out for a possible trade. Finn Balor may be going back to the main roster, and AJ Styles coming and finishing out his contract in NXT. Now, I don't know. Again, it's a rumor. Don't know how true it is. But for your guys' point of view, how big would it be to get a guy like AJ Styles to be down in NXT for, I mean, I don't know how much longer his contract is, but like a year or two, just to be down there, one, coaching, and to really like put the shine on these guys with matches and stuff like that.
I think that'd be great. I mean, especially from a development standpoint, and someone that's, you know, as far as like with OVW being a coach and professor and trainer, that's huge. I would love, you know, if I was working for WWE, I think that would be a huge get for NXT as far as being able to help bring up those guys on the roster. And I imagine to a degree, probably from AJ's standpoint, it would probably be refreshing just to have some different people to work in the ring with, and especially people that are young and hungry and eager to learn. One thing, unfortunately, that happens, I think it happens really in any career, not just wrestling, but not everybody, but I think there's plenty of people that as they go longer in their careers, they get jaded and they're not as excited or motivated. It starts becoming, you know, a 9 to 5, or it's just a job, you know what I mean? And you start going through the motions versus, I think, you know, probably, and this is me hypothesizing. It's been a while since I've been backstage, but I know last time I was up there, there's certainly, you know, there are guys that are jaded and they're there, and, you know, they're hopeful that, you know, storylines and whatnot will turn around into where they can, you know, have more exciting things to do. But I think a lot of guys, you know, they aren't as hungry as they used to be. And so I think AJ going from the main roster to NXT, I think that energy being around these younger talents, I think a lot of times that it's contagious. You can feel it. And you have all these young, talented men and women that are just eager to learn and soak up any knowledge and experience you have to give and offer. And so I think AJ having the opportunity to work with the NXT roster as both a talent and a coach, I think that's a huge get. And I think it would pay off tremendously for them as far as being able to help elevate the members of the roster and help just give them that experience that AJ has over decades of a career. Just to be able to pass on that knowledge, I think would just be hugely valuable for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. Like, you look at it, you know, I did hear that AJ did want to go to NXT. I did read that. I think he going down there, I think he could definitely have some barn burner of matches. I really hope that Adam Cole doesn't go up to the main roster before that happens, because I think that those two guys would absolutely steal the show. Same with him and Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa. Like, there's so many dream matches down there for AJ Styles that I think it would be great. And I think for the longevity of NXT and for a lot of the younger guys that are coming up, you know, through the NXT ranks, he will be able to be a great asset, you know, to the company, you know, after retirement. Like, if he stays out his whole contract there and retires at the end of it and becomes a coach at NXT, you know, the company is only going to flourish, and the young talent is going to learn so much from someone, as you said, that's been through, you know, decades of the business, who's, you know, been a multiple-time world champion everywhere that he's been, main evented, you know, show after show after show, that they would have to, you know, it'd be a great addition to their coaching staff and so beneficial to the young guys.
Absolutely. I agree. But I don't want to get too far away, because we do have some couple listeners that worked really hard on their homework. So I do want to kind of jump back into the assignment that we were discussing just a few minutes ago. So we got a couple of our regulars that sent in some ideas. First, we'll start with Joe Atherton, which I can't give away too much, but I do know some top secret meetings have been going on between Mr. Joe Atherton and Ben Hameen, actually, our leader, if you will. So what will come of that? I guess stay tuned. So that's all I can say for right now. But I can say what he has in this email here. Here's my effort to book El Legado del Fantasma versus Breezango and Drake Maverick in the space of 4 weeks. So week 1, so in theory, this would have been this week. Breezango has a match with some tag team, but he's going to go with Everrise. Breezango gets the win and are immediately jumped by all 3 members of El Legado. Drake comes down to make the save, and Legado del Fantasma takes a powder. So interesting in that we saw similar conclusion happen with Swerve this week, but we saw Fandango, they're having him work an injury. So it looks like based on that, they wouldn't have had them in a tag team match, but I'm not opposed to that starting off, because obviously that's similarly to what they did, except with Drake, it's a Swerve. And then he says later in the night, Mauro and Beth are talking to the camera when they get interrupted, saying a brawl's taking place in the Full Sail parking lot, and they cut to the action as all 6 men are brawling and separated by NXT officials. All right, so that's not too bad. Week 2, backstage, Breezango's talking in the locker room. Drake Maverick walks in saying he just got off the phone with Commissioner William Regal. In 2 weeks, they get Fantasma in a 6-man tornado tag team match. So I guess this is a step up from the regular tag. I like that. All 3 men seem very pleased with this until, boom, they're attacked from behind by Legado del Fantasma. Fantasma get the upper hand, incapacitating Breezango before kidnapping Maverick and going to a commercial. So I like that because that plays into the kidnapping that they've done before, and it's an ongoing theme, and it's a regular mechanism that the heels use for heat as far as on this show. Later in the show, Breezango are shown looking for Drake, quizzing roster members and officials in the back if they'd seen Fantasma, Legado Fantasma, and if they saw Drake with them. Nobody seems to know. Man, the Athers put in the details this week. Breezango hits the ring, calls out Legado del Fantasma. They don't do sneak attacks. They're calling them out like the manly men they are. On the big screen, Legado Fantasma are shown in an undisclosed location. Escobar has a chair with Drake's ankle in. Breezango rush off to make the save, but they're too late as Escobar Santos crushes Maverick's ankle. All right, so they're taking people out. I'm not opposed to this. Week 3, Fandango is looking pissed off backstage. Breeze comes in with bad news. Drake's ankle is broken, and he's out of the match next week. Regal says they have 2 options: face Legado del Fantasma alone or try to find a partner. The rest of the evening has small packages of them, trying to recruit a partner. I can't help myself. Low-hanging fruit. They try Damian Priest. They tell Damian Priest that they're pretty similar, all handsome guys who the ladies love. I like that. That could be a fun scene. Priest says he's been in WWE over 10 years, which is kind of like living forever. Priest, though, isn't into it. Fandango tries to sweeten the deal with it, potentially leading to a cruiserweight title shot. Priest stands up, towering over Breezango. Do I look like a cruiserweight to you? Scoffs and walks off back to the drawing board. Okay, I like that. Again, more character interaction. Later in the night, Breezango are seen walking backstage, saying they're running out of options. They see Finn Balor, look at each other and approach him, throwing up 2 sweet signs. Finn looks them up and down, smirks, and walks off. Fandango says, well, that wasn't a no. And then the last segment of the show, a dejected Tyler Breeze is backstage getting off the phone. Fandango comes in and asks if they had any luck. Tyler Breeze says Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne are stuck in England. Zack Ryder's fallen off the edge of the planet. And Doink the Clown has a kids party next week. That's funny. That's funny.
That's a lot of detail, man. That is so much detail. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I do too. We're almost to the end here. I think we're going this rodeo alone, Fandango says, wait, I have an idea. And he makes a phone call. Hey, man, listen, I know we're not exactly your favorite people, but there's this guy and his Mascoons who I know you can't stand. Yeah. Can you make it to Full Sail next week? Perfect. We'll see you then. Breeze asks who it is. Fandango says it's a surprise, Breezy, and you're going to love it. Week 4. So this is the final week. The match. Legado Fantasma comes out. Breezango comes out at the top. And their mystery partner, Jordan Devlin, the former cruiserweight who never lost his title. The match is a huge brawl over all Full Sail, which ends with Devlin getting the pin on Escobar, setting up their feud for the true cruiserweight champion. Week 1, the hook. Week 2, Fantasma throws a spanner in the works, getting the upper hand. Week 3, comedy, but under the guise of a real threat, having Legado Fantasma 3-on-2. And then the Week 4 payoff, good guys over, setting up the cruiserweight title match. He said, sorry I went long, but had to put careful thought into this. Obviously, it would only work if Devlin could fly, which I assume he could, seeing as Rich Holland did. So there you go. Wow. What do you guys think of the Ather's ideas there?
That's a
ahead,
lot
Piers.
of detail, man.
It is.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a lot of detail, and it's really thought out. I like the comedy bit involving Damian Priest. The only thing I would probably suggest is instead of Damian Priest, how about we make it the resident thick boy,
Oh, yeah, that'd be
Bronson
good too.
Reed? You know, because you know what I mean. I just think that his character, you know, he is that killer, but you know, he's such a goofy guy as well. You know what I mean? Like he's got that funniness about him as well.
True.
I think that you could sort of see like he would have that sense of humor. I think it would also be good exposure for him because I think Damian Priest, you know, he's sort of known to the American audiences probably a little bit more. But I think that having someone like Bronson Reed in there, who obviously fellow Aussie, cheap plug there, you know, I think that he would definitely be. I think he would fit that role a little bit, like really well. And I could see him being like the potential one. They could even joke around about him challenging for the Cruiserweight title as well.
Yeah, I like that.
Especially
as he could be a little more goofy. I actually like the idea of still having. I think you should. I think actually both could be separate pre-tapes. I think the reason Damian, at least to me, I think the comedy in that is because he's such a contrast and such the opposite of Breezango. That like them coming in all goofy and saying, "Hey, buddy," you know, and him just being very serious, like, "Who are you dudes?" You know what I mean? I think that's the comedy in that versus Bronson could chime in and be goofy with them, and I think it would be comedy, but just the approach would be different for the comedy. But I could definitely.
You know,
see
it'd be
both.
even fun. You know, it'd be even funnier if they did it to Karrion and Kross.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, just because he's such a like, it'd be like, what the.
Although I feel like Kross is one of those characters. If they did to him, and I'm not saying they couldn't. They absolutely could. It'd be funny.
Like, it'd be like, what the.
But I feel like Kross would have to kill him at that point. You know, I feel like he couldn't just stand there and walk away.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, I very, very detailed ideas. They're Athers and very well laid out. I'm not sure if Jordan Devlin would be available, but that certainly would make more into the mix. I guess the only unanswered question, and you feel free to respond if you would like, is where's Swerve in all this? And that's only because at this point they've at least implicated him as being involved in the story. And as we saw this week, that was solidified. But as of last week, we knew he was at least going to, you know, to some degree be involved because they were addressing him last week. So I'd say that would be my only, I guess point of just making sure we're covering all our bases is what happens with Swerve. But, you know, and that's being nitpicky. Other than that, it popped me on some of the stuff that you were saying in there. And overall, I like where your head's at, especially with how you kind of build that heat and building to a tornado tag versus the traditional tag team match, which we saw last time they had a 6-man tag.
Well, I think the Devlin spot, if it wasn't for the COVID-19, would probably be the way that they were going. Because like Adler said, he never lost his title. You know, he had to give it up due to the fact that he can't travel. But I'm pretty sure public aviation is grounded. But if you have a private jet, I'm pretty sure you can fly wherever you want in the world right now. So I'm pretty sure Vince spending a little bit of money could probably get Jordan Devlin over here and then make this happen. But I do like, because then now you can, even if Swerve or somebody ends up with this cruiserweight title, you can still put Devlin. You still have that's my title that I never lost kind of thing. I mean, similar to Finn Balor with the Universal title, you know, he can always has that claim that, hey, I never got beat. You know, I'm still undisputed basically because I never lost. So.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with. Sorry, that's the thing with Devlin though. Like he was called out in the speaking out movement though. Like, what's his status currently with WWE? Is he still under contract, or did they release him? Like,
I believe he's still under contract.
But to your point, it would depend on that too. Absolutely, that definitely has to play a factor in, you know,
well,
if those.
That maybe not, because we saw later on in the episode.
Well, true. Yeah. Well, and that's where I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And like we saw, like we'll talk about Velveteen Dream making his return, and obviously he had allegations against him as well. But you have to, I assume, you know, at least the way it should be is you take each case individually. You know what I mean? And so obviously on a case by case basis, as long as they're doing their due diligence and finding out what really happened with these incidents. And then
I was really surprised to see Velveteen Dream back. I was like, whoa, like, you know what I mean? Like the allegation against him was pretty, like the evidence was pretty clear. You know what I mean? Like it was, he had guilty written all over him. But like I said, man, it's, you know, They can always figure out and find the truth.
That's true. And then that's where, I was surprised as well, to be honest, Piers. But, at the same time, I also have to acknowledge that I wasn't, involved in all of the fact finding and everything that goes along with the investigation. From what I saw and heard, I agree with you. It seemed like Velveteen Dream was done as far as wrestling goes, but now he's back. So I don't know, what happened as far as that goes or what, but it will be interesting, I guess, going forward. But it looks like for now, Velveteen Dream will be back on the roster. And before we get into it, I know we're already, of course, I'm getting chatty, just having fun talking with you guys, but I have one more piece of homework I wanted to get to. It's our friend Hans. Of course, I had to let everyone know what Hans had to say. His is slightly shorter here. He says, "Sorry, Doc, about being a week behind in my homework. My cat ate it." Yeah, likely story. I got a 2-for-1 boozing with the Booker. Ooh, I like that. Are you going to send me some booze? I say I got a collection to add to, but we'll talk about that later. So here we go. First, back to everyone's favorite punter, McAfee. Okay, so he's going to start with last week's homework, but these are short. I feel like they can have him get jumped by Undisputed Era and get left laying out 1 week. So potentially we might see that next week. At TakeOver, they can have Undisputed Era turn on Cole and give McAfee the win. Oh, that would be an interesting turn, wouldn't it? Cole gets to jump to the main roster as a babyface, and Undisputed Era can continue to be fuck-offs in NXT. Man, Hans getting hot, being mean here.
That's brutal, man.
Also, McAfee is boys with Corbin and Elias and Mojo being an NFL guy, and so they could set up an ex-NFL crew with a bunch of jocks less wild than what Brock was. Interesting twist on the story. I never thought about having Undisputed Era turn on Cole. That is an interesting twist, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it as long as they set up the right thing. So I think you would have to see Adam Cole start to get a little more belligerent with his guys, a little more abusive, and it starts to be like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Why are we listening to him? And then eventually, when something happens in the match where he slaps one of them or, all of them even, and they're, that's when they can be like, screw you or something like that. Well, no, I guess that would make him more the heel and make Undisputed Era the baby faces if that was the case.
I think Adam Cole as a heel is completely awesome though. Like, like him as a baby face, depending on how WWE would book him as a baby face, but like Adam Cole as a heel, Adam Cole in NXT has been pretty badass, man. Like I'm a huge Adam Cole fan, and I think he's man, next level heel. Yeah. But he does get over as a babyface, so like, he's supposed to be a heel, but
and that's where actually, to his idea, you could play it up either way. If you wanted to keep him as a heel, then you would do it the way I just was talking about, where he's abusive and he's becoming an even bigger dick than he was prior. Then finally during the match, like I said, he slaps him around, and then they all can be like, screw you, and either walk off or leave him laying so McAfee could get the win. That would be a way to leave him heel and allow Undisputed Era really to kind of be baby faces by turning on Adam Cole and walking away. Or you have it the other way, where if you wanted him to be a baby face, that's where Undisputed Era, as a sneak attack during the match, screw him over and allow McAfee to get the win. So I think either way, that idea could work. So Hans, I like that mechanism as far as, how to go about that particular angle. And then number 2, the Fashion Police. I'm not sure if I can attack this one. Breezango is one of the few groups in WWF, or WWE, well, he says WWF, that are always comedy gold. They definitely need a third guy because they are outnumbered. Then I think they should come out dressed in the mask that the 3 guys in Legado del Fantasma had prior to unmasking. Dress them up like them and further culturally appropriate them. Maybe even have them come out as Demolition when they were a 3-man crew. Thanks again, Doc. Colin, if Biden heard you, he would say you ain't funny. I still love big titties. GGP's favorite fan, Patriot of Iron. Thanks, Hans. Thank you, Hans. Always good to hear from our very entertaining listeners. I appreciate the words, Hans. So it sounds like he would have Breezango basically take the Legado's costumes and continue to try to stoke that fire, if you will, and get them riled up. So he doesn't necessarily name anyone in particular, but I think potentially, you could certainly do something like that too.
Could you imagine them coming out in the Demolition like gear with the Demolition face paint?
That'd be awesome. That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be a lot of fun.
Oh, that'd be incredible. That'd be incredible.
Ted, I actually have the one comment from Discord. What's the deal with Adam Cole? Seems like he has lost a lot of mass, which It does. I mean, even in this picture that I have as my background, it's kind of an older one. But I mean, look at Roderick Strong's abs. I mean, like a lot of the guys in Undisputed Era look like they've kind of toned out, like, you know, gotten a little flabbier and they're not as toned. Maybe it's something with the gyms and working out and that type of thing.
Right.
I don't believe everything I hear about him. Maybe I should. But Velveteen Dream is back at the bottom of the food chain. Grimes reminds me of a 2020 version of Honky Tonk Man. That's a good thing.
That is always a good thing. Yeah, Honky Tonk, he knew how to get some heat, that's for sure. And as far as Adam Cole looking at, I like you kind of commented, Colin, I don't know, but I imagine it probably does have to do with the pandemic and not being able to get to the gym. And in order to maintain mass, you have to be able to keep moving mass. And so certainly with gyms being closed, I don't know, the situation down there as far as what these guys had available to them, but I imagine probably it was a lot more cardio than lifting weights simply based on the situation. And that's what happens. You end up losing mass over time. So we'll see now that things are opening back up if, the size comes back on, but that would be my best guess as far as that goes. Well, yeah, might as well not waste any more time. Let's jump into it, boys.
So we started off the show with Karrion Kross versus Danny Burch. And Ted, this in my head when we got this matchup last week, the booking for me immediately was Danny Burch is going to come out with a fire lit under his ass, and he's going to come straight for Karrion Kross. And by golly, did that happen? I mean, we got to see Burch. I mean, again, throughout commentary, Karrion Kross has never been this down. This guy, nobody's actually taken it to Kross like this. And of course, Burch had that reasoning behind why he was just going to, I mean, he got him before the bell even rang, like just really just let me at him. And eventually Kross gets the win here, but Danny Burch looked really, really good coming after him like this. And I think it was a great way to kind of propel Kross to the next phase of what's going to happen with him and Keith Lee. Just based on the match alone, Ted, did the business, or actually I'll go to Piers. So one of the things, Piers, that he likes for us to do is do you
here I'll explain real quick. So
Sure.
So what the way we review this show, Piers, is I try to do it similarly to how we always did it over the years with OVW and with Al Snow and all the other coaches we had that came through. And so we would do like TV review. And so every segment in a wrestling show, whether it be backstage or in the ring, has a piece of business that needs to be accomplished, or at least every segment should have some kind of piece of business they're trying to accomplish. So we always talk segment by segment, what we felt the business of this match was and whether or not the business got done. So to that point, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Piers. What do you feel the business of this match was, and do you feel that business got done?
Well, I think that the business of the match was quite simple, that, they wanted to put Karrion Kross in there with a tough opponent, and Danny Burch is one tough, I don't know if I can swear on the show, but he's one tough SOB. And I think that Danny Burch didn't look weak in the match, so you're not really taking much away from Danny losing, and it definitely wasn't a squash. I think both guys coming off looking like competitive, Danny being competitive against Karrion Kross, and obviously Karrion Kross going up against someone who's like a hard-nosed, tough guy who's had some really tough matches in NXT UK. And I think that the match overall was a win-win for both guys. That's what I think the business was in that match.
Absolutely. I think the business was to have Karrion Kross defeat a tough opponent to put over his toughness, Karrion Kross's, in order to make him seem like a legitimate contender for Keith Lee, which was the next part of the business we saw after the match. I'll say I thought these guys killed it. I loved the match itself. The intensity was there. I guess here's my only concern is we're building Karrion Kross as a killer. Danny Burch is a great talent, a great wrestler. He's really only been known as a lower card tag team guy, though, relatively. So my only concern was, and I don't know, I'm kind of more our hypothesizing with you guys and asking too, is as I felt like this was something that maybe should have happened later, because the quality was great. I'm not taking away from that, but I also question if Karrion Kross is going, toe to toe with someone that at least for a WWE viewer, against someone that is on a lower tier roster member, how does that make him seem like he's going to be able to defeat the top of the food chain in Keith Lee?
Well, it's the fact that he's just coming into the promotion as well. It's like, you look at it as, a competitive, boxing match or a competitive UFC match. A guy who may be established in another fight promotion will come in. He's not going to get a shot at the world title straight away. He's got to have a couple of those matches first to build up his contendership. And I think that that's pretty much where it is. It's like they're trying to legitimize NXT a little bit more, as like if he came straight in and he's got a NXT title match, it's like, well, hold on a second, what about like the 7 or 10 guys that have been here for the last 12 to 18 months to 2 years that have been sort of here week in and week out, and this guy comes in and gets a title match? I think that that's why they had to really make it to have him have that match, but also to sort of build him up as that killer and sort of make it look like he's getting win after win after win, so he deserves that title match.
Yeah. And I'll play devil's advocate on myself too, but I think the way they worked it, and that Danny Burch came in like a house of fire, and he had something to prove here and kind of caught Karrion Kross off guard from the get-go. I think that helped make it more okay, because he caught him off guard, and he was bringing more of a fight than I think Karrion Kross expected. Or at least that was the story I felt that was being told as I was watching this match. Is Karrion Kross kind of got caught off guard, and because of that, he was getting rocked by Danny Burch and almost took a loss here. But as Karrion Kross is a killer, no pun intended, he was able to come back from the onslaught of Danny Burch and come back and win this thing. But in what was a great and intense opening contest here, and a great hot way to start the show, in my opinion.
Well, Ted, correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe that Karrion kind of tore through Dijakovic, didn't he? I mean, didn't he pretty much? So there, a guy in Dijakovic who he tore through has had very 50-50 matches with Keith Lee. So there is that kind of psychology there too, where if the fans have been watching, they know kind of the history of Lee and Dijakovic, where they're pretty evenly matched. And for Kross just to come down and kill Dijakovic the way he has, basically does set him up as a guy that can still beat up Keith Lee and everything. But and I think that the psychology is what you said. It was that Danny got the jump on him. Danny, like, because Kross wasn't ready. I mean, he immediately came in the ring and got him before the bell and just got jumped on him from the start. So like you said, the psychology there is that, he might not be as weak because, again, Danny got the jump on him there.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this though. With Karrion Kross coming in so strong, I feel like they're going to be doing the same what they did with Aleister Black. Like, he's going to have like this undefeated streak. I believe he will be the guy that takes the NXT title. I think that Karrion Kross is so on fire right now that it would make sense. And Keith Lee going up to the main roster would be another thing. But I think that Karrion Kross will be the one going over in this match, but I just hope that they don't do the same thing they did with Aleister Black, build up this unbeatable monster, and then drop the title in a like what the hell just happened kind of match. You know what I mean? Like, I feel, and like even where Aleister Black is now, it's not, they built him up, and then it's like, no, we'll forget about this toy. We got something new coming here. You know what I mean? Like, I really hope that they don't have that same mentality with Karrion Kross, because I think he brings so much to the table.
Yeah, and so I think Karrion Kross, if they book him the right way, has the potential to really. I think if they have him just power through and then do something similar, but a much more seasoned and experienced version of say like a Goldberg type character. Like, I could see him really being able to take this, like he runs through everyone in NXT, that he runs through everyone on Raw and SmackDown, and then sets up the inevitable match with Brock Lesnar, then he beats him too. And it's like, now you have a star on your hands that for the next 10 to 20 years can really, elevate not only the company, but all the other members of the roster around.
And he's only young. He's only young too, isn't he? He's like, I'm
not sure off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, I know relatively. Let me look it up here. I'm curious now.
Well, I think it just comes down to, man, it's going to come down to smart booking with Karrion Kross, and as you said, it's really got to be down how creative puts forward and what they do with him. I just hope that they continue the momentum that they have with him, and you have him as that real intense, killer, no pun intended as well there, but they really have to build him up, but maintain him at that as well.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like they're going to add that little bit of supernatural side to him. It seems like they're slowly kind of adding more powers, a la like the Undertaker and things like that. Like, because as we saw, and Ted, as you're looking up his age and everything, I'll go ahead and
he's 1 year older than me, which, well, crap, I shouldn't have said that. Now you're going to know how old I am. It looks like he is 35.
Gotcha.
So he is for wrestling. I mean, in life he's young. In wrestling, he's probably on the older side. But I'd still say he's got at least a good 10 years that he could run through.
But that's the thing, man. A lot of wrestlers, they start to peak when they're 40. Like, you look back at the older generations, man. Like Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair,
Or hell, look at Jericho right now. I mean, he's someone that's still kicking ass.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. And not to get off topic, man, but I refer to Jericho as like the Dave Grohl of professional wrestling, because he's like the big guy. It's been cool for 30 years. You know what I mean? Like, he's just
very versatile. Yeah, and like David Grohl, very versatile too, in that he can be a babyface, he can be a heel, he can be a part character, he can be a main eventer. He can do all the things.
Do comedy, do the intense,
Yeah, so we actually we get a little bit more here, because as Karrion Kross wins the match, we hear "Bask in His Glory," and Keith Lee comes walking down to the ring with purpose, and it looks like he's got an NXT contract in his hands. He wants Kross to sign it. He gives it to Scarlett. Kross, and then you hear people in the audience yelling like, "No, you don't sign it. We want him to sign it." And so she walks over, gives Kross the contract. He signs it. As she's about to put it back in the ring, she gives it a little kiss. She slides it over to Keith Lee, and as he picks it up, big old fireball explodes in his face. And Keith Lee's down, and Karrion Kross and Scarlett are standing tall on the outside of the ring, and Lee is just livid, screaming for Kross. Everybody's trying to help him. His eyes are badly burned, and this carried over into the next match, which this really annoyed the crap out of me, Ted. It was picture in picture in picture inception. And it was just so annoying, as the next match that we got following up this thing was ridiculous. But this whole, this segment, I guess we can piece this part where the contract signing together, and then we'll kind of talk about the Keith Lee thing, I guess, during the Drake Maverick match that we have next. But business, I mean, I'm assuming the business was done here, Ted. I mean, it's a contract signing. There's a little bit of supernatural stuff involved here. I'm looking forward to what Keith Lee's going to do next now that he's been blinded and they're kind of working this into the story. But Piers, what did you think about this little bit of a segment here? I mean, do you like Keith Lee's intensity? Do you feel like, as we're talking about Kross being a big star, do you feel like Keith Lee has stardom written across him?
Oh, absolutely, man. Keith Lee, really showed an extra bit of intensity in that promo, calling, Kross a bitch and really sort of, showing that passion and anger. I like the idea of the fireball thing as well. I thought that was really cool. The only, thing I think that they could have done a little bit better for the business of the segment is to make it look 100 times worse. Like, have Lee going, I can't see, like people like throwing water and shit all over his face, like wet towels, like really covering his face. Because when you saw him walking in the back to the ambulance and stuff, like you see his face, and his face didn't look damaged at all. And I think that going into the match, if they'd really done that and really built it up as a serious injury, number one, for the heel, they've really then established, like, oh, this bastard, he's gone in there, he's injured our champion, he's injured our babyface, and then the babyface gets that crowd sympathy, that gets that audience sympathy. So then immediately the audience are even more on the side of Keith Lee. They really want to see him get in there and beat the living daylights out of Karrion Kross and get his, and get it over on him to get that back for that attack, you know. So I think they could have done a little bit more. I think they could have done a little bit more old school, just to, you know, really nail in, you know, that Karrion Kross is an absolute despicable killer, horrible human being that'll do, you know, absolute anything, like no boundaries. But then also Keith Lee being that ultimate babyface of like, they've injured our champion, you know what I mean? Because he's so over as a face, make him vulnerable.
I like that. I can see your point as far as the cameras backstage, but I still feel, or I guess let me ask you, do you still feel the business got done though, as far as putting heat on Karrion Kross here?
I think it did, but not as much as they could have done if they really, really, really sold it. And that's where I think that, to be honest, man, I think that's what let it down. And that's nothing against Keith Lee or Karrion Kross. You know, like I said, I'm just sort of armchair booking right here. So, you know, I would have had him over, like, just really, really sell it, because, you know, he's like, I'm fine. You know, obviously trying to be that tough guy, but having him be that vulnerable, like, I can't see anything. I'm, you know, people throwing water, have his face completely covered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's, you know, for me, is going to be more of a strong build for that match, where people are going to go like, I have to see this match.
Yeah, and those visuals are hugely important, because if you're thinking it, I'm sure there's other people that are watching that either are consciously thinking it, or worse, they're having an unconscious moment in their head where they're thinking, I'm not really into it. You know what I mean? Or I don't believe it. You know what I mean? Potentially. So I certainly everything you see and everything you hear throughout the course of the show is hugely important to the viewer at home. So your assessment of whether or not the business is done is fair. I always say whether or not the business got done is a yes or no answer, but there's always level as far as how well was the business done, or could the business have been done better. So certainly I think to that degree the business was done, but there may have been opportunities where the business could have been done even better, so that way more heat could have been put on Kross here. But that being said, I do think the business did get done, and I am interested and excited to see where they go from here.
Agree.
Where we go from here is a random match, what seemed like a random match of Drake Maverick versus Killian Dain. Now, when I saw Drake Maverick first came out, I thought we were going to get the Legado del Fantasma segment here. This match was, and Ted, I say this a lot about these matches. I do feel like this was just a filler match, because the majority of this match was picture in picture with Keith Lee doing his whole, the eyes, the burning thing, them trying to calm him down. And then you had them. Then they went to commercial, and you had the Keith Lee and the Drake Maverick thing on one side, and you had the commercial all big, and it just, and for some reason on my feed, they kept switching back and forth from the Drake Maverick match to the Keith Lee thing. So it took me out one of the Drake Maverick match, which the business of the Drake Maverick match was to lead to something else. But it just, this whole picture in picture thing, like, I can't get into it. Like, why just make the Keith Lee thing a whole segment, or follow him throughout the show of them like trying to calm him down in the back, you know, a doctor, hey, we got to take you to the hospital, this is worse, you know, instead of just trying to cram it all down our throats in that first 15-20 minute segment of the show.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like it was a complete filler of a match. You know, and especially Killian Dain going up again, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much more that they can do with him than just have those two guys in a throwaway match like that.
Yeah, and so here's my thoughts, and this is where I'm hypothesizing. My only guess was perhaps they wanted to give viewers a reason to watch through the commercials, and maybe this was an experiment to see if they retained viewers through the commercial better, if they provided, you know, action in the ring, as well as, you know, the important stuff going on with Keith Lee. But I will say, as a viewer, I felt, to your point, Colin, that it took me out of it. It took me away from it. And so that's where I think it's a shame, because I felt like they did a good job with getting heat on Kross and having Keith Lee sell, but the selling didn't mean as much if, you know, they're selling Snickers or whatever at the same time as they're trying to show a medical update. You know what I mean? It's like, well, that must not be overly serious if they're putting commercials through this and not, you know, they did on the other side of the break at least give more of an update, but I agree. I think it sends a message to the viewer that what's going on right now isn't that important, so don't worry about it. And I don't think you ever really want your viewers to think that, especially as it relates to stuff going on the program.
Well, so we get to the real business of the match with when the Undisputed Era hits the ring. beats crap out of Maverick and Dain. Cole grabs a mic and cuts a really good promo on McAfee. And the one thing I took away from this was his camera work, Ted. I mean, at one point in time, I felt like he might have been trying to rib the guys running hard cam and the cam on the side of the ring, because he like was talking to hard cam, and then he did the point over to the camera, and then he pointed back to hard cam and was really only there for like 2 seconds and went right back to the on the side. This was a great promo from Adam Cole. People pick on his size, people pick, he just doesn't look like, with guys like Keith Lee and Karrion Kross, he looks like a midget kind of compared to some of these other guys, but he's got that charisma about him, like a Shawn Michaels, that he's bigger. He seems larger than life, especially when he gets on that microphone. And this promo, really good promo. It got me hyped to see him and Pat McAfee come NXT TakeOver, and Adam Cole's looking for a fight.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Sean. I can't help but wonder if Sean maybe was the producer of this particular promo to be able to help Adam Cole deliver the emotion of it. Not that he needs any help, but just being able to fine tune it up a little bit. But I thought this was a good piece of business here. Piers, what did you think of this?
Man, as I said earlier, I'm a big Cole fan. I thought the promo was great. I think that, I think it could be leading towards Undisputed Era, but going babyface. You see Pat McAfee just doing a lot of heel stuff, from obviously, prior kicking Cole and knocking him out with his arms behind his back. And, I think that the promo itself that Cole did, he's really solidifying that it's going to be a fight. He's even said, you think you can come into my world, into pro wrestling, and play wrestler? No. This is like, you're going to get hurt. You're going up against a professional. You are not a professional wrestler. And I think that it's kind of like, that old school mentality of pro wrestling, like of pro wrestlers, is like if someone was to try and come into the business and they had no business of being in it. It's like, hang on, you're going to come into this world and think that you're going to step in the ring and be a badass? No, dude, this is not how it works. And I think that's exactly the feeling that I got from that promo. And also the delivery of it. I don't think Cole does anything bad, to be honest. I think that he is money. I think his promos are money. I think that he could potentially, if booked correctly, could be this generation's Triple H. That heel, that generational heel that can be there for the next 10, 15, 20 years and fill that role as a heel, but also slide into a babyface and have a babyface running here and there.
Certainly. I mean, this was a great promo. He had star written all over him, and I think it absolutely did the business in hyping up the match, and it made me certainly piqued my interest as far as what's going to happen next week between McAfee and Adam Cole.
Absolutely.
We get a little bit of a kind of a vignette of everything that's going on with Tyler Breeze and Fandango, and Breeze comes out to wrestle Santos Escobar. For me, the business of this match, was Fandango trying to get revenge again. He wants that fight. He's tired of kind of being afraid of what's going to happen with these guys. So Breeze is actually taking that fight to Santos, and when Santos comes out, he sends his boys away. He wants this to be mano a mano, and eventually, of course, Santos goes over, but not without a little bit of interference from Wild and Mendoza. But after the match, we get Fandango walking to the ring, and then Swerve Scott makes his appearance. So it looks like, and I think we talked about this last week, Ted. I think I said that this was kind of the direction they seemed to be going in, where we were going to get a 6-man with Scott and Breezango versus Legado del Fantasma. This was a fun little match. I mean, Tyler Breeze really is one of those guys that can't have a bad match with anybody, which is why they put him in there with Jushin Thunder Liger for his only like WWE match. And this was another great match. And just watching Santos Escobar work, this is what I just see the money written all over him, and that's where I myself feel like he can be kind of that next big Mexican star in the WWE if they just book him right and they keep him on this path that he's on.
It's interesting because it does make me, because I can't help but feel like what you were talking earlier in the show, Colin, about, I still feel there's unfinished business with Drake Maverick.
Yeah.
But based on what we're seeing, it almost feels like that it's being moved on from. Now, I could be wrong because they do sometimes bring things back around full circle later for a different reason. And so they might have something bigger in mind as far as that goes. But it certainly seems like for right now, Swerve is the guy. My one issue, though, was at the end, I have two issues. Is first of all, one guy sliding in and he's able to kick all three guys' asses. Sometimes that's okay. But to me, I felt like this was where the business to me was Legado del Fantasma getting their heat and then bringing Swerve back into the mix. Now, I think it would have been okay if he would have came out with a chair and chased them off, but I would not have had Swerve touch them here. Instead of bumping them all out of the ring, I would have let them leave with their heat, and Swerve still makes the save with the chair to even the odds, but it leaves the viewer hanging over. Okay, so they haven't yet seen the baby faces get any kind of justice or comeuppance. Even though it was small, Swerve coming in and bumping the heels, that's at least a little, giving the fans a little bit potentially of what they want to see, and seeing the baby faces get a little bit of revenge, but not a lot. But I'm always a big proponent of any small way you can maximize the heat, do it. And that's where I felt like that was maybe slightly missed a little bit here on the back end. Not that it was bad, but I still think if a small change where if they would have done it in that manner, that they could have got a little more heat out of it versus bumping the heels out by one guy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I couldn't agree more. Like, Swerve Scott is great, and I think that when you've got three heels in this little stable that you're trying to get over as being these dastardly heels, have them cowardly when they need to be cowardly, and having them come out with a steel chair or like a baseball bat or something, be swinging something to scare them out of that ring. But overall, as you said, Tyler Breeze can't really have a bad match. He's been in the system for so long. He's been on the main roster. He's been in NXT, FCW. I think he really understands the WWE's way of performing, and I think that he's great to have down in the NXT to help build some of these younger talents up into the WWE system.
There's a lot of business that can still go on here with this
group. And I realized earlier I didn't give my thoughts on the homework assignment, and not that there's any right or wrong answer, but I was actually wondering if they were going towards Legado basically trying to take out all the different cruiserweights, as we saw them kind of take out Drake Maverick, and then they took out Breezango, and then they called out Swerve. And so I wondered if you could continue to play that game, so like an improv, you continue to play out that same type of story or game. So you have Legado potentially continue to take out, members of the cruiserweight division over time until eventually they've taken out too many. And then finally the comeuppance is somewhere where Legado is trying to win a match, say at TakeOver, and then all the cruiserweights that they injured and fucked over that time of heat all come out to kill them. They give them all the finishes and all the fun stuff, send the crowd home, happy to conclude. And then they can always spin off after that into something else. That was my thoughts on a way they could go with it. Although it does seem now they are going to solidify things with Swerve Scott, at least for the time being, probably leading up to TakeOver 30 would be my guess. And I like the Ather's idea of doing a tornado tag just to make it different too, and exciting and kind of even the odds, so to speak, in that manner.
So we've got Indi Hartwell standing in the ring waiting on her opponent. And we go backstage, and Mia Yim has basically just gotten back to the arena from checking on Keith Lee. She doesn't really have an update, but you can tell it's really got her bothered. It's really got her flustered. And we come into this match, Mia Yim versus Indi Hartwell. And my first thoughts, Ted, here were, man, is Indi Hartwell is really getting this rub. Like they're going to have her go over Mia Yim here, who's distracted. She's already got that win over Shotzi Blackheart. Like, are they slow? Like, they're really slowly trying to build like Indi Hartwell. And boy, was I wrong, because Mia Yim was able to overcome the thoughts and things that she had going on about Keith Lee and everything, and ends up winning this match. Again, Mia Yim's another one of those workers. She's going to go in there. She's going to put a good match. We've seen Indi Hartwell get used a lot recently, and she seems like she's a pretty decent worker. I think she's from around your parts as well. There appears either New Zealand or Australia.
No, she's from Melbourne.
Okay.
Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Australian talent here in NXT. I mean, a lot, and this was a fun little match. I'm actually excited to kind of see Indi Hartwell's character kind of grow more here in NXT. She's got a good look, but I was totally screwed up on the business of this match because, like I said, I thought Yim was going to somehow lose this, again, being distracted. Piers, what were your thoughts on this match?
Well, I've been a big Indi Hartwell fan for a long time. I've seen her wrestle here in Australia, and I thought that Indi looked really solid in this match. I think that Mia Yim coming out, you saw the frustration, you saw the worry in her prior to the match. And, I definitely thought she was going to go out there and lose, but you also saw that frustration coming out in the ring as well. Like where she's, like when she took Indi Hartwell down and just started, ground and pounding her, that really heaviness. You could see that was like, you know what I mean? Like if you've just seen your partner that happen to your partner, then you're having to go and have a wrestling match or have to go and have a physical competition against someone or fight someone. You're going to have that aggression, that anger, that frustration had to come out. And I think that it played really well to the story. I think it definitely did the business, this match. It made Indi look really solid. She is a phenomenal worker. And I think she's got a very, very bright future. Her win over Shotzi Blackheart, was definitely well deserved. I think that, if she was able to get a win in this one as well, it would have really solidified her in that women's division as well. But I think this was more of a like, okay, let's see where she's at. Let's see if she's able to step up into that next level. So I definitely think that, she would have gotten a lot of eyes on her from that match. I think it was a win-win for all.
I like the way you said that, Piers, because truly a good business in wrestling ideally should elevate everyone in the match, even in a loss. And I think this was a perfect example of that. Despite taking the loss, Indi Hartwell still shined and still showed potential as a future top contender in the women's division here, despite the loss to Mia Yim. So I think business was done on both ends and that both competitors were elevated through this match.
Oh, 100%.
This is probably going to be one of your top rated matches of the evening here, Piers. We've got Damian Priest versus Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed looked like he was in trouble here. He ends up getting the win, rolling Priest up with a jackknife cover for the surprise win. I mean, it looked like the business of this match was, Damian Priest was going to eventually overcome here. Going into this, it seemed like, Damian was kind of that favorite to win it. And this was a good match. Like you said, the business, both these guys look strong at the end of this match too. It's, Bronson gets that kind of roll up win against Priest, who confronted him out in the parking lot. So going into the ladder match, I guess, for TakeOver 30, we'll see what Priest has next week. But it seems like Bronson again he's on a really good track to look like he could be the next North American champion here in NXT.
Yeah, I mean, Bronson Reed, man, if you hadn't seen any of his stuff that he's done prior to WWE, I really suggest you go check it out. He went by the name of Jonah Rock, and he was just like that ultimate killer, like almost like a Taz type, wrestler, which you can see from the body shape and stuff like that. He's probably a lot bigger than Taz, but he definitely was a killer back in Australia, and he definitely has been showing that killer instinct here. I think the match against Damian Priest was so solid. Like, I've been a big Punishment Martinez / Damian Priest fan for the longest time, and these two are obviously two of my favorite stars in NXT right now. And to see them go at it again, there was no losers in this match. Damian Priest still looks strong. I think it was a good win for Bronson Reed. I have a feeling that he will go on to the final, whether he wins the title or he doesn't win the North American Championship. I still think that him being in that title picture brings a lot of attention to him. Following this from Damian Priest, I really think that they need to start putting him towards that main event scene. I think he's starting to get ready, or even move him up into the main roster, into like the mid card sort of title range. I think that he's definitely sort of ready for that level. But I think he should get at least a small run with the NXT Championship before he goes up to the main.
I'm going to have to, I hate to say this, I'm going to slightly disagree with you guys, but I do have an explanation. So here's what I'll say. That part that I think I agree with you all on is I think these guys put on a very athletic contest that was physical and looked like they really were bringing a lot to the table. My issue was these guys are really big guys, and I felt like they did not respect their size and that they were doing a lot of these quick things. Not to say that occasionally it's cool to see a bigger guy do a spot that's like, whoa, but I felt like this was like they were wrestling as if they were both cruiserweight size guys and not really. I mean, there was one point where they put it over where Damian Priest hit his one move on Bronson Reed, and then he kicked out, and I thought, all that awesome. I mean, that was such an awesome spot. That's something that should have been a finish. And since that wasn't the finish, in my opinion, I don't think they should have done that particular spot. So I would have liked to have seen them maybe cut out a little bit, and not to say that it's not stuff they can do down the line and make it make sense, but I would have liked to have seen them work more for the bumps they were taking here, especially as towards the end. I know when Bronson went up to the top and jumped off, it looked like they were going kind of fast. It looked like he kind of almost landed on Damian.
Almost did, yeah.
And I thought someone was going to get hurt. And I think part of that was they were just going too fast. That being said, I still think, I don't think it took away from the business, and that was really, to me, the business was to sell the championship match for TakeOver and to put over the people in the match, that being Bronson and Damian Priest. Yeah. So that, and I thought that was really to elevate that and show, hey, this is going to be exciting action. But I also thought for future business for these guys, unfortunately, I felt like some of the longevity for the things that they can do with other people in the ring, in a sense, was taken away, because now we've seen them do all this other crazy stuff already. Someone say that's a cruiserweight might do some of the things that they were doing. And I just felt like they could get more mileage out of over time showing this athleticism instead of bing, bang, boom. And that's just me being a nitpicky, old school, wrestling mind, coming up from OVW and Rip Rogers. But I just felt like they could have done a lot more by doing less here. But that being said, I still think the business got done in getting people excited for the NXT Championship ladder match, to sell that this is going to be an exciting match to watch.
Yeah, we go next. We get the Robert Stone brand versus Kayden Carter and Kacy Catanzaro. I mean, the business here is just to keep making that Robert Stone brand look stronger, especially with Martinez having just joined the group. There's a fun little dynamic too at the end.
Colin, I'm going to stop you here. The business was to set up something.
Oh yeah, well yeah, the business was to set up the eventual Rhea Ripley run in and everything like that.
No.
Oh no. Oh, that's right. No.
What based on what we saw through this segment, what match will eventually happen or should eventually happen?
Robert's or no, not Robert. Aliyah versus one of those girls. No.
To me, this was all about setting up a tag match: Mercedes and Aliyah against Rhea Ripley and we just talked about
Shotzi Blackheart.
Shotzi Blackheart. Yeah. To me, that's what this was setting up: a tag team match between them, which I feel is only going to lead to more miscommunication from Robert Stone, and probably lead to something with Mercedes and that crew, in my opinion. But that being said, that's what I felt the business was. But as far as what were your thoughts on this, Colin?
No. I mean, it was a fun little match. You don't see Catanzaro and Kayden Carter haven't really been on our TVs much since you and I have taken over Next Level. So this is kind of our first shot to see them. Mercedes Martinez, I mean, she's a beast. Now, I did have one little bit of a takeaway from this match. Towards the end there, you could hear the ref yelling at everyone that it was time to go home. I don't know if you guys caught that, but if you go back and you watch, you hear her like there's that melee scramble, and she's trying to get, I think she's more so saying like, hey, everybody get out of here. But it was like, as she was kind of like, and I don't know if that's how refs gives cues, Ted, that it could be something like everybody's in the ring and her just being like, hey, all of you get out of here. It's time to get out of here kind of thing. And that just like triggered in their head, because immediately Mercedes Martinez hits her finisher and goes over like within seconds of the ref saying like, oh, we got to get out of here kind of thing. So that I've never heard that be yelled so loud. Again, it could be the fact that there's no fans and stuff like that. I mean, it came across pretty obvious. Sure. And there were some other things too, because I think there was a match earlier, and I don't know if it's the last match, but there was a match where commentary was saying stuff and the wrestler in the ring was like talking back to commentary. And I can't remember what match that was, because I remember them saying something and he was like, yeah, that's what I'm, like he kind of went along with what commentary said. That was just some little nitpicky thing that I saw. But like you said, after the match, we get Rhea Ripley running down to the ring. Stone, Aliyah run away. Ripley's able to get Martinez down. Aliyah tries to help, but then Shotzi Blackheart runs down to the ring and makes the save. Now, Shotzi looked a little different because recently her car was stolen and all of her ring gear, including her helmet, were in the car that was stolen. So she came out here. I mean, she's still her look, her normal clothes, I guess, still kind of look like her normal ring gear, anyways. And like
for shoot, she lost her.
Yeah, for shoot. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
She got a car stolen.
Yeah,
Oh,
car
man.
stolen. That helmet, everything were there.
Damn.
Which that left all the Twitter trolls were like, she drove a Honda Civic. I thought she drove a tank. Yeah, exactly right.
Jesus.
And so
trolls, man,
yeah, right, right. So I like Ted said, we're gonna get that business here. What did you think going into this match of Robert trying to recruit Kacy Catanzaro at the beginning of the match there, telling her that she didn't need Kayden Carter?
I love it. That's the game. Robert Stone is a shit stirrer, and he wants anyone he can to be a part of his brand and help to strengthen his brand. He's going to try to take advantage of it. So I thought that was great. To me, that plays right into his character. That's all that he needed to let an otherwise. So if someone's watching this for the first time, they can already pick up on, okay, this guy's a slimy asshole who's trying to get an easy win by trying to get her to turn on her tag team partner. So right away we know, okay, I don't like that guy. And so I thought that was just a good, simple, easy way to let the viewer know this guy's an ass if they weren't otherwise watching, or for people that do watch, it helps to solidify that heat. And so I thought that was really well done.
Well, and Piers, before you jump in here, I have one other thing to ask Ted about character work. Did you see at the end of the match as Aliyah's trying to celebrate, she runs up and like kisses Mercedes on the cheek, and Mercedes is just like pushing her, like wants nothing to do with what she's got going on. Like, how is that kind of as a dynamic? Is that something that you think is going to play off well on TV? Do you think, that could be something like like a game within the scene where she can constantly just be like trying to touch on Mercedes and trying to do things, and finally Mercedes just gets tired of it and just just wallops her one good time? I mean, is that something that you could possibly see, or is that like, if you had the book or you were kind of in charge of creative, would that be something that you would play up on TV, Ted?
Run through the scenario one more time. Sorry.
So they won the match, and she was like, Aliyah was all excited and she was jumping. I mean, she literally ran and kissed Mercedes Martinez on the cheek, and Mercedes was just like
not
get the hell off of me. And in improv, you have that game in the scene type of thing, where she's just going to constantly bug her. Would that be something that you would
oh,
put
yes,
on TV?
yes, and I would, yes, and I would do like little scenes here and there, and the great part about stuff like that is that's something you can do. Let's say, because there's only so much TV time, and it seems like NXT has more members or has more talent than they have TV time for. And so that's a great opportunity to where if they don't have a match, they can easily have a 1-minute pre-tape, which puts over that relationship and continues to build their story without necessarily having to see them perform in the ring. So absolutely. And there's a lot of fun little games that you could do with that, with Aliyah trying to basically try to win over Mercedes Martinez to be her friend, kind of. And I think that could be hilarious in and of itself, just playing those little games of Aliyah trying to win over Mercedes, and Mercedes just is not having any of it, no matter how much Aliyah tries to swoon over or win over Mercedes. Mercedes just continues to be the hard ass, like not putting her over type deal. So I would love that. I think there's a lot of potential with that relationship that they could show through little scenes together.
I think that even having I think my having it like Martinez being the older teenage sister and Aliyah being like the 6-year-old like little sister, just wanting to be like close to her older, you know what I mean? Like have it sort of like that. That's that annoying kid, like go away. And I think that could obviously build over time, or it's gonna have Martinez, knowing WWE booking, it'll probably turn Martinez getting more involved with it. Or I'd like to see her turn heel. Well, she already is heel, but sort of turn on her. I think that's another angle that they could do, where they could potentially have it as like she gets sick of that shit, so she just turns on Aliyah and Robert Stone, and then obviously you then made her a babyface, by doing that. So, but Robert Stone, I love his character. I love his gimmick. I think he's, just that slimy scumbag arsehole. And he really portrays that role really well. Aliyah, again, she's that sort of spoiled rich princess, and she does that well. She's been in the system for a little while as well now. I quite enjoyed that segment and that match. I thought it was pretty matching. Rhea Ripley, complete badass, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And another Aussie.
So there you go. You're all taking over.
I know they are really
That's
taking
it,
over
man.
NXT here. So
They're
there
bringing
was
that
a
Vegemite and
vignette.
everything.
There was a vignette that I wanted to Vegemite that I wanted to put over. What did you guys think of this power couple segment that we got here with Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae as they're kind of at the house, you know, enjoying quiet time as this heel couple, and she's reading this book, and then she goes into this weird like almost like a Fight Club monologue thing where it's it gets all distorted and she's like talking, you know, breaking the fourth wall and like kind of giving us the insight of what she really wants to do as this heel. And then they cut back to her and Johnny. They're all, oh yeah, whatever. And then Johnny's like, I gotta climb that ladder because he's putting in a light bulb. And then he turns into the, you know, cutting that promo, that Fight Club promo where he's just like straight to the camera, the distortion in the video and everything. And then they snap back out of it and they're like that happy-go-lucky couple and they walk down the ladder and go upstairs and go to bed. This is a very interesting like little take on this. I don't think I've ever actually seen anything like this before with a wrestling vignette. Piers, I'll go to you first. So what were your thoughts on this? And then we'll get the professional opinion from Ted on this vignette.
You know what? This is probably going to get me a little bit of heat. I am not a Johnny Gargano fan. I don't enjoy his character. You know, I think it's sort of been very chop and change very quickly in a very short period of time for me. Like he hasn't really been consistent with one style of character. I did the promo that they did was a solid promo, even though he isn't my cup of tea. And I think what that, you know, like sort of, you know, staring into that camera, doing that sort of real intense sort of Fight Club style promo, it did work. But like I said, for me, I'm not really invested in Johnny Gargano. I'm, like I said, nothing against him. I'm just not the biggest fan.
When he was a babyface, was it different, or even then was it the same?
Look, when he first turned heel, like I was like, okay, I can see this. I'm enjoying it. But to me, it was just, I don't know. To me, it just didn't resonate with me. As a babyface, I felt he was just very generic and very bland. Like I thought what he did in the ring was phenomenal, but it's the world of professional wrestling. You can't just be phenomenal in the ring. You have to have that persona. You have to have the promo, that character. And to me, like his character as a babyface, I was just like, yeah, take it or leave it. You know, I think his series of matches that he had with Tommaso Ciampa and that sort of stage was probably the time where I was most invested in him. But to be honest, he just has, like I said, nothing personal against the guy. It's just not my cup of tea.
His performances don't intrigue you as a viewer, and that's an important point to make. So I don't think it's nothing that, you know, I would think, you know, you should get any heat about. Everyone has their own tastes, you know what I mean? And so
No,
for you,
yeah, look,
you know,
it's more the in-ring stuff. Like the in-ring stuff I can appreciate, but when I see him doing the character stuff and the intros and stuff like that, I'm just like, yeah, no. I kind of get, yeah. Sorry.
And I'll say, as someone that's really only watched NXT for the last couple months now, I don't have, and that's where you at least have that context that I'm glad you're bringing to the table. So in my context with Johnny, the little bit I've seen of him, I'll say that I have enjoyed his work, but I also only have a short amount of body of work of his to really go off of. And so to that point, I thought this was intriguing. I thought it was well done, and I am interested to see, you know, what else is going to develop, you know, from here. I feel like inevitably it has to lead to them getting opportunities at their respective championships. I would even be half surprised if they tried to work into something, doubling back to having Keith Lee and Mia Yim as champions going against Gargano and Candice LeRae in a kind of a unique, you know, double championship match. And maybe that's how they end up with the championships down the line. I'm not sure, but that was just something that kind of crossed my mind as a place they could go if they wanted to with it, because they've made it clear their goal is to be the first couple of NXT holding both the men's and women's championships. So it will be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, it's, you know, Johnny Gargano is good. Like I said, it's just not my personal preference. And I think that they could definitely do that. I think if WWE were open to like a tag team intergender match, whereas like, you know, one pinfall winner take all, like if, you know, it doesn't matter if Candice pins Mia or, you know, Keith gets pinned by Johnny, you know, then you win both championships like that. And I think that would be
or do you do it where, I wonder too if you could also set up to where for one night or one time only, we're gonna have mixed tag rules where men and women can interact with one another, because I think Johnny Gargano winning the NXT Championship by pinning Mia Yim, how much heat is that? He couldn't even beat Keith Lee. You know what I mean?
Just to have Keith Lee pounce Candice LeRae, she would take that bump because she's done all that stuff out on the indies. That would be, that when you said the whole intergender match, Piers, that my first thought was like, man, Keith Lee just pounces her and she goes flying out the ring into Johnny Gargano or something like that. Like that would be a fun little spot to have. I like Johnny Gargano.
It's WWE though. Like they're
either
not gonna have
that,
a man
either
touch a
that.
woman.
You're right. They probably won't. But I think if it's done in a way to where, it's not looking like a guy is trying to be an egregious, trying to take advantage of a woman. It's all, versus you that's where you have to be very careful with the spots. We actually did do an intergender match a few months back in OVW, but it was the right opportunity. We had one of our really big girls going against one of the big guys, and they worked it in a way to where people weren't mad. We did get the wrong kind of heat, and that's where you just got to be careful with how you work that match. I think it could be done, but they would have to be very careful. Like I would see the finish possibly being something where Mia has Johnny Gargano in a compromising position, and then that's where you could do your spot, Colin, where Candice comes in to try to break it up, and Keith Lee pounces her out of the ring, and then that's where Gargano takes the opportunity to reverse out of Mia's hold while Keith is focused on LeRae and get the win, because that's even more slimy, because we've seen before he's not afraid to let Candice take a fall for his advantage. And so since they've already kind of set that up, that would be a potential way to allow the finish to happen, something like that. But you are right, Piers, they probably will not go that route because they classically just stay away from that. And I don't blame them for doing so. I think from a business standpoint, it makes sense too. You don't want to turn off sponsors and potential money for the company, especially during a global pandemic. So that being said, I think from a writing standpoint,
I was surprised when they did it with Randy Orton and Nia Jax a little while ago. You know what I mean? That to me was like, whoa. Sorry to interrupt you though, Ted.
No, you're right. And I think that was the context was, one, Nia's a bigger girl, and so it doesn't seem as much of, him being an asshole. And plus, I think playing up that, I think at the time, which I can't remember if she's a heel or baby face, but anyway, with her being a heel too, that also makes it different, because in the viewer's eyes, well, I don't like her. She's someone I don't like as a character, so I don't mind her getting, hit by a guy. And granted, it was taking a wrestling move versus taking a punch to the face, which I think is a whole different connotation as far as watching on the screen. I think seeing a guy punch a woman in the face is the wrong kind of heat versus taking a slam or a wrestling move. To me, that's not going to invoke those as strong of those emotions of the social justice warriors getting angry about that.
What's your personal opinion? What are your guys' personal opinions on intergender wrestling? Sorry to get off topic, but
I think it's something that it should. I think it's something that can work. I don't think it should happen often. I think there are certain times when storylines can dictate where it makes sense, and then it has to be done with people that either know what they're doing or can listen to someone that can produce the match in a certain way. Because it's one of those ones where you accidentally do the wrong thing as far as getting the wrong kind of heat, like again, having a guy punch a woman in the face or something like that, that's the wrong kind of heat. You got to be able to work in a certain way. So I think it can be done. I just think there's certain times it should be done, and there's certain and I think the people involved, have to be the right people for that match too, for it to make sense and for it to work.
Well, and we've seen this most recently too with Impact, with Tessa Blanchard being their top champion.
Now, unfortunately, as much as I think Tessa Blanchard's usually talented, and I like the stuff Impact's doing, I do feel her run as champion, as far as the stuff they had her do in some of those matches, I'd feel, unfortunately, they did not. Be
my point. Yeah.
I don't think they.
No, I agree. I think intergender wrestling really needs to make sense. Actually, a couple of months ago on my other podcast I do, Shooting the Shit Uncensored, I got to sit down and interview LuFisto, who is a women's wrestling legend and a real pioneer in intergender matches. And that's even something that she said, is that it really has to make sense. If you've got a 5'6" woman that's 130 pounds going up against the guy who's 6'7", 6'8", and 280 pounds, how are you going to make that look believable? It can be done, but you have to make sure that she's got weapons and all these other sort of things to really show that, hey, anyone could win a match if they're
Right.
hitting someone with a sledgehammer or something like that. But intergender wrestling definitely just has to make sense,
Right.
and it has to be that thing where I think, as you said, Tessa Blanchard, when she went over Brian Cage clean, I was like, get the fuck out.
Right. Right.
I agree with you, Colin. I was like, there was moments with that. I was just like,
yeah,
right.
Like, what the hell? Almost like I have to turn this shit off.
Yeah, because you can't be emotionally invested in something where the rules don't matter, or the rules of logic don't matter. I mean, and it's not being sexist. I mean, if Brock Lesnar was in there with Rey Mysterio, I wouldn't expect them to trade shots back and forth, because that's just ridiculous. And so same thing with Tessa in there with a larger man to be able to trade shots and go toe to toe. It just it takes the viewer out of that emotional investment, because you no longer are able to believe, and that's never a good thing.
Well,
Exactly.
we hop into our main event of the evening. I believe this is the last match of triple threat qualifying matches for that North American Championship ladder match. We're going back in time. We're going back to the future. It is Kushida versus Cameron Grimes versus a man mystery, as Cameron Grimes put it earlier. Dream, it is Velveteen Dream making his return. This was a fun little match. I thought Kushida was going over all the way here. I mean, this guy, he came over from Japan. I feel like he's on like his second or third excursion. Like he's just going to go back to New Japan after all of this stuff and just be an
he's been going back and forth a few times. I actually worked him back in OVW about 10 years ago. So
really?
he's been around a minute, and I'm just glad he speaks. I could tell from the pre-tape they did. I'm glad he speaks a lot better English, because when I wrestled him, he did not speak any other than hello. That was pretty much it. Now, fortunately, when I worked him, it was we did a tag team match, and it was him and Nick Dinsmore, Eugene. So it was easy. He basically just had to take heat and blow a comeback. But it was very interesting working a match with someone who you couldn't really play anything with, because at least at that time he didn't speak any English. So it was just so Dinsmore kind of translate a little bit like, you take heat and I'll do a comeback, and that's really all we could plan. And the rest of it was not even called in the ring. It was more felt in the ring, which I love. I love that style where it's just get in there and just what's there, you go with it. And so I remember him being really easy to work. And so that was about 10 years ago. And so you got to think, since that time, he's been well seasoned, well experienced, and taken the opportunities to go around the world and wrestle. Hopefully now's the time for him to shine and really get a good little run here.
Kushida is amazing. Kushida is next level. I think his stuff in New Japan, when I saw him come over here to WWE, I was really excited. I do see him going back to New Japan eventually, but I would like to see him get on and have a main roster run at some stage as well, because I think there's so many matches there that he could have, which would be just barn burners.
Although we alluded to earlier the possibility of AJ Styles coming down to NXT, now that would be a great match. I think AJ Styles and Kushida would certainly tear the house down.
Yeah, that would be a lot.
No, I agree.
Now this match, Ted, this match did not seem like a bunch of singles matches put together in a triple threat match. They did everything they could to like have some kind of interaction with all three guys in the ring. I mean, that first opening segment where they were just throwing each other into each other, they were working each the fact that you pointed that out to me that time, like now I just noticed that now, where it's like, all right, it's just two guys in the ring. No, it's all three of them. And I think this match, they really did a good job of all three men staying on top of each other, whether they were reversing or throwing each other out of the ring. There was just something fun about this match. And Cameron Grimes goes over. Cameron Grimes is able to steal the victory here. Man, and listening to the person in the Discord chat, the North American title could be a title that they could put on Cameron Grimes here with his charisma, and he could really, really, really make this title and have a guy like Bronson Reed chasing him, or some of these other guys chasing Cameron Grimes. I mean, he seems like he's more of a total package than a lot of these other guys, because he's got the promo skills, he's got the in-ring ability, and he's just that smarmy heel. And think about the vignettes and the promos that he could cut holding that North American title. And I feel like it fits him. Like the title, the way the strap looks, his whole leather hat look, everything. I feel like that title just screams Cameron Grimes.
You know, I wasn't even thinking along those lines, but you're absolutely right, though, Colin. And especially this match lends itself to a heel victory because you don't actually have to pin or submit anyone to win the championship. So I could totally see a situation where he comes in out of nowhere as the snarky heel at the end, the slimy heel, and is able to get the championship because everyone else took each other out.
Well, and Ted, think about the people that we're going to have in that match too. So now we've got Damian Priest and Bronson have issues with each other. And who has Cameron Grimes been having issues with the past? So there's going to be that chance where he can probably somehow slimy as hell get Bronson and Damian Priest to take themselves out, and he just climbs that ladder right to the top, right to the moon, as he likes to say.
And then be able to say that he's beaten all these guys when in actuality he just climbed the ladder and took the championship versus not actually defeating them. But that's what he should do, is say, yeah, I beat them all. I beat them all.
Well, what were your thoughts on this match? I mean, Piers, do you feel like they got the business done in this match leading up to this ladder match?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, Cameron Grimes is so good, and I do agree with you 100%, Colin. I think I could see him as being that North American champion. That championship belt just seems to suit him, and I could see him being a long-term champion, holding that belt for a long period of time, being that greasy, grimy little heel that sort of just snakes victories all the time. Even when he was back as Trevor Lee in Impact, you could see so much talent that guy has. And I think as far as like most of the other competitors involved in the tournament here to crown the new champion, he is the total package. Like, he has everything down pat: the in-ring, the gimmick, the character, the mic work, the promos. He has that total thing all down. And not that the other guys don't. I just think his is more polished, if that makes any more sense. But I definitely think the business was done. You look at the other guys that were in it, KUSHIDA, and also Velveteen Dream. Velveteen Dream was. Hang on.
Yeah.
Let me check my notes. It was Velveteen Dream. He didn't make the comeback. He did, yeah.
Yes.
So that was the comeback he made. I think that was quite a nice surprise. I think at the end of it as well. Who knows where it's going to lead to for Velveteen Dream though.
Right.
But yeah, Cameron Grimes, I think, definitely got the business out of this one.
And this is me spitballing here with Velveteen Dream coming back. Here's the thing: as I love the idea of Cameron Grimes, but I feel like if he's going to have a longer run, he needs a heater or someone to be aligned with. And so that would be an interesting pairing, potentially. I'm just spitballing here. Maybe you all can tell me, because I'm not as familiar with Velveteen Dream's work, but could a pairing with Velveteen and Cameron Grimes potentially work out? Or would that be a clash of characters, you think? I almost feel like it would be something, though, where Velveteen certainly would have to change up his character to a degree. But I got a sense of him going heel here.
It would definitely be an odd couple situation. But go ahead, Piers.
No, I was. You actually just took the words right out of my mouth. Exactly what I was going to say. Great minds think alike, bro.
Yeah. But even if not, though, but I still feel, I do feel Cameron Grimes, if he's going to have a lengthy run as champion, I would like to see him align himself with someone who, like I said, is a quote unquote heater, someone that's going to, be looking out for him. Maybe even potentially this would be an interesting swerve. And again, I'm just spitballing here, but who is on NXT right now and is looking to sign anyone he can?
Oh, Robert Stone.
Yeah. And so potentially, and that would be interesting. Now, who I think would make a great bodyguard? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Mercedes Martinez.
Oh, for Cameron Grimes?
Yes. Yeah, to be his personal bodyguard.
Yeah.
What about Killian Dain?
That'd be good too, because especially since he's not doing anything, and I like the idea of giving talent, more interesting things to do. So that would be good, and he's kind of like the gruff, stern contrast to the over the top Cameron Grimes. So I think that absolutely that could work as well.
I just imagine those vignettes with Robert Stone, like, yes, Cameron, we're gonna get you to the moon. Like, this is the whole point. We're gonna make sure I'm gonna bring the moon to you, Cameron. Like all like just over the top selling like everything that he says. But I love Grimes's promo skills because it just seems like it's that very simple A-B rhyme scheme. I mean, he just gets like the promo that he cut during the little vignette that they had. I mean, he got the family and then everything was E, and he's like a poet on the mic. It's so much fun. But after this match, we got a little business for Velveteen Dream here because he did not take the pin. We're gonna get Finn Balor versus Velveteen Dream. Now, this is gonna be a fun little match because both these guys can work.
Look, as far as everything that's gone on with Velveteen Dream, I think that they probably brought him back a little bit early for my liking, considering the allegations that were brought out against him. And I know this show isn't wrestling with tragedy, so I don't want to go into too much
but that's a fair point.
of the darkness of it. I just think from the evidence that was shown about him, unless they have concrete evidence that he is 100% innocent, which I would be really interested to see that. I think that they brought him back a little bit too soon for my liking. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I think he's great at what he did in the ring. But I want to understand why they would bring him back so soon after the speaking out movement. There's only, like that wound is still fresh.
You're right. And that's where it's absolutely appropriate to bring that up, because on the show, obviously we concentrate on the writing, but you cannot ignore the business factors. And just to give a little context, back when I was helping run OVW, besides making decisions on the show that were related to writing, we always had to think about the business, not just like the business getting done from a storyline context, but making sure we're doing things in the ring that aren't going to get the wrong kind of heat and that are going to make sure we maintain good relationships with our sponsors. And that's definitely something to mention, because that will be interesting to see if they do get any blowback from this. Potentially, maybe they are looking towards working him out, and they want to at least put someone over on him first before they ship him off. Now, that being said, in my opinion, you don't ever invest TV time in anyone that is on their way out, unless you've already invested TV time, and then, okay, well, let's just go ahead and pay it off, which to a degree, I feel like they already did anyway, based on his last match with Adam Cole, if I remember right.
I like that. There was no really reason to bring him back just to have him job out.
Right.
Like I said, up until a few weeks ago, I thought he was done. I thought he was brown bread.
Yeah.
I thought he was out of there, done, dead in the WWE and done with wrestling. But like I said, they must have some sort of evidence that proves some sort of innocence for him.
It will be interesting to see if a statement or something comes out here in the next week, just to clarify, to, I guess, clear his name or show what happened, because based on what people know, it did not look good for Velveteen. So I would be very curious to know what happened as far as that case goes that more or less cleared him, if that is the truth. So I think that's very relevant, and I'd be curious to see if a statement does come out in the next week in regards to that. But from a business standpoint, I think it's absolutely relevant, because with everything that's going on in the world right now, I think as a writer and as someone that's thinking of maintaining close relationships with our sponsors and community, I don't think that would be someone I'd want to necessarily bring back right now.
Did either of you guys noticed how Velveteen Dream looked very similar to James Brown's mugshot photo? Like
no, I did not.
The hair and the goatee and everything. I got a very James Brown vibe from Velveteen Dream as he was out in the ring, because he always kind of has different looks. Ted, he's got the Prince thing going. He's always had these like Jimi Hendrix vibe. Now I feel like he might be trying to go down that James Brown. Like, I mean, I'd pull up the picture and I'll send you guys the picture after the show of what I'm talking about. But I feel like he's got that James Brown vibe and just the heelish ways in which he beat up Kushida. I think they might be trying to give him somewhat of a new package character, maybe like some kind of new vicious heel thing that they've got going on here with him. Maybe because of everything that's been going on behind the scenes. Who knows? Basically like, oh, I'm not a good person kind of thing. Like, hey, that's my new character. Like, I'm a POS basically. So we'll see how this goes. I mean, this was a fun overall show, a good show overall, actually. And I saw somebody on Twitter say, oh, it was just kind of your normal NXT show. No, this wasn't all that normal of an NXT show. There's a lot of business got done here. A lot of storylines are going to be continued. There's a lot of stuff for TakeOver 30. There were a lot of matches announced for next week. So a lot of things got done just in this 2 hours of wrestling.
Absolutely. Piers, I'd be
Yeah,
curious,
nice.
especially from your end, someone that watches Raw and SmackDown regularly, how does NXT you feel hold up to the main roster, the main brands?
Honestly, NXT is miles ahead. I watch Raw, but I pretty much watch Raw like this when I'm sort of sitting on the couch, like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, to me, Raw is a very hard show to watch. I don't watch the whole 3 hours of Raw. I literally watch like the 90 minutes on Hulu for it. Like, I just don't have that 3 hours to invest in it to sit down and watch one TV show in. If I'm sitting down to do that, it's going to be a big pay-per-view. But, I think NXT is miles ahead in as far as like creative goes on Raw and SmackDown. I think the talent they have there is amazing. I think the talent that they have on both Raw and SmackDown is amazing, but I think that NXT's been doing a lot of things right for the last couple 2 to 3 years easily. And I think that talent there now really sees the writing on the wall that going up to Raw isn't necessarily going to be the mecca of pro wrestling. And I think NXT is really establishing itself as the place to be or the brand to be on in the WWE banner.
Sure. I mean, you think from an exposure standpoint, I mean, really, you're getting just as much exposure now on NXT as you are on Raw. So it's like, you still have just as much of an opportunity to be able to shine. And I think one of the great things they do on NXT, and I'm glad you said that because I was always curious how it measured up to Raw and SmackDown. And based on what I read, it seemed like NXT, was kind of the I hate to say it, but superior show in that just they help. They do a really good job of keeping the storylines going, of maintaining interest, and just telling stories through wrestling. And I think a lot of their success really is based upon they really, in a sense, keep it simple. And I think because of that, guys and girls are able to shine in the wrestling ring and they understand their business of what they need to accomplish. And I think because of just the simplicity of the stories and how they can be easily digested by the viewers and thus make it more easily being able to get emotionally invested in the stories that they're telling. I think that's what's led to their success. And based on my opinion as someone that doesn't watch the other shows, but at least has an understanding of what's going on the other shows, I'm inclined to agree. I feel like they're doing a great job here.
Yeah, I think that NXT, is really when they started NXT to what they have done with it over the last few years is really wanted to make NXT like the indies of WWE. And they brought in a lot of the indie talent, and you look back at who they brought in with Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Adam Cole, and obviously Red Dragon or the rest of the Undisputed Era, Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, and they really built up that feeling of it, and they were able to bring in stars which were already established, like Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, James Storm when he had his brief stint in there, to really establish it as a really competitive brand and a really strong place for these performers to be, as well as they're getting these indie darlings, putting them on there like the Ricochets and all these other names that we can sit here and throw out for days. That internet fans and fans of like independent wrestling, bringing in that market to them, and then obviously they've slowly started to bring these guys into Raw, but not know how to book them correctly. You know what I mean? Like, you've got a Ricochet on Monday Night Raw. You know what I mean? Like, and you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but you're not booking him. You've got an Aleister Black. You've got all this talent, and you just don't know what to do with them. You don't know how to book them. Where NXT is more, I think, okay, guys, here's a little bit of rope. Either go out and swing or go out and hang yourself. And that's what these guys are doing. They're able to take what they're doing on the indies and do it on a much larger scale, as in NXT, and the stuff that they've been, working on and progressing on over a period of time in their careers.
No, and as somebody that watches SmackDown, I do feel like NXT is a superior product. I mean, even all those takeovers they have that just blow the major WWE pay-per-views out of the water with some of these matches and things that they've had. I mean, NXT, they say it's developmental, but I mean, they've got a guy like Triple H and Shawn Michaels back there running the book and being the creative ones. And if we know the stories are true about those guys, that's all they did was ride in cars and book with Nash and Hall and so the creative just juices were flowing and all those car rides, and you can see it still with Triple H and some of the things that they're doing. NXT is definitely the better brand that the WWE has. It's just a shame that if Vince got his hands anywhere near NXT, he would fuck it up royally.
Well, either way,
Vince. No Vince.
He slapped his hand.
Stay away. Get out of it.
Unfortunately, it seems that's not the case. As NXT this week, I think, was, as you already spoke on, Colin, it was a great building episode, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. I think the road to TakeOver 30 is strong so far, and I just only see it heating up from here. So I'm excited to see what goes down.
Well, Ted, do you have homework to send us home?
I can't let you all leave without assigning any homework. I know we're over time. The bell already rang, so we'll get right to the homework. So we almost have this NXT North American Championship ladder match booked out. So my homework assignment is a simple one. You can make this as short or as long as you want it to, but I want to know who is going to be the last participants in the match, who goes over, and then who is going to be the first challenger for the new champion. So I think we have 2 more spots available, if I remember correctly. So we got Finn Balor versus Velveteen Dream next week, and then we have Ridge Holland against Johnny Gargano for the last 2 spots. So I want to know who are the last 2 spots, who is going to go over for the championship, and then who is going to be the first challenger for that championship. So 4-part homework. You can either just name them, or you can be more elaborate and write out the stories you think should be told throughout that. So the good news is you don't have to do too much writing this week if you want to participate in the homework, because I know some listeners may be intimidated by the writing assignment. So certainly you can just send in your picks, and that will be perfectly fine. Or again, if you want to be elaborate, that's fine as well. But I want to finish booking out this North American Championship. I want to know who goes over, and then who's the first challenger for that North American title. So you have your homework for the week. You can send in your homework, of course, to nextlevelwrestlingreview@gmail.com to send in your ideas and your thoughts as far as the homework goes. Before we depart, though, gentlemen, well, actually, let's do this first. Piers, if you don't mind, one more time, let people know, one, where they can catch you on social media, as well as where they can catch the Wrestling with Tragedy podcast.
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Piers Austin. You can also find the Wrestling with Tragedy podcast on the Vince Russo Network. If you're also still looking for more wrestling entertainment, you can head over to Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance on Facebook and on YouTube, where I host my show, Shooting the Shit Uncensored, where I sit down with people from the world of professional wrestling and sit down and have one-on-one conversations with them. It's a lot of fun. I've had such guests like Vince Russo, Leo Rush, Chazzy Gabbett, Tim Storm, Zicky Dice, and I've got new interviews going up every week, so go check that out as well. And definitely check out Wrestling with Tragedy. We're just getting started. We're 17 episodes in, and we've got a lot of great content, a lot of great information that we're going to be presenting in the near future as well.
Awesome. So perfect time to go ahead and start watching, especially since you all are in the early stages of it, but already have some great quality interviews out there, so people don't have to sometimes I feel like it's intimidating to start a podcast and you're like, man, they're already 200 something episodes in, but you guys are just 17 episodes in. You all have some great content out there, so certainly a great podcast to start making part of your regular viewing or listening schedule, if you will. So definitely be sure to check them out. Wrestling with Tragedy, they're doing some great stuff over there, and I highly encourage all of our listeners to check them out. And Piers, we appreciate having you today, my friend. I know it's, I believe, about 2:30 in the morning there, so I appreciate you staying up late with us to talk NXT today. But it was a great time having you, and I hope hopefully we can have you on the show again sometime soon.
Absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I had a great time.
Absolutely. Colin, where can the good people catch you as well?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Colin Wysong. You can also might be my last Smack Attack episode before we hand the reins off.
To who?
We're not going to stooge that off.
All right. You got to stay tuned. You got to watch then. Got to listen to Smack Attack and find out the big news.
Yeah. So I'll have that go home show again. I produce Cage Theory, the MMA show here, and then on the pwhustlenetworks.podbean.com you can find me and my co-host Fame Black on the Ridiculously Random podcast. And we actually have a Discord. So again, if you want to turn in your homework into the Discord, go to the Hami Media discussion group. I'll try to have the Discord invite up on my Twitter as well. Guys, get in there. We're already about 26, 27 people. There's already been some really good interaction in there with a lot of the guys. So definitely get in there. And it's a way for you to be able even more interaction and more connection to guys like Ted, Ben Hameen, Stevie Richards, those type of guys, to get your questions across on their shows. So definitely go and check that out. It's new. We're going to do it, and it's going to be successful, and we're going to make it happen. So definitely find me there. And like I said, on Twitter at Colin Weislau. Now, Piers, I followed you on Twitter. So if you want to send me a message,
just followed you back,
your info and stuff like that, I'll make sure we get that stuff put in the description of the episode today as well. And I'll take care of that as I produce the show when we're done here. But Ted, I think that's everything from me. I'm already starting my homework, but while we're still sitting in class, I know it's called homework, not classwork, but I'm jumping on this right now.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right. I'll forgive you this time. And of course, if you all can catch me on other Hameen media shows at hackerhameen.podbean.com or wherever you get your podcasts, of course, you can catch us. Or you can watch it live on YouTube or twitch.tv/Conspiracy Horsemen. Of course, we have the Monday Locker Room every Monday morning. You can catch me on the Impact Attack on Wednesday morning. Of course, you can also catch me on YouTube Live here on Thursdays for NXT. Or of course, you can also download that at our hackerhameen.podbean.com. And then, of course, you can also reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram at Ted the Man Beast, or on Facebook as Ted McNailer. And of course, for all your rehab needs, business consulting, or character development work for the wrestlers that I work with a few, certainly you could reach out to me at bookthedoctor@gmail.com. Well, be sure next week, ladies and gentlemen, to have your homework ready. Again, that's nextlevelwrestlingreview@gmail.com. We want to know the last two participants in the NXT North American Championship ladder match. Who goes over in the ladder match, and who is going to be the next challenger. But in the meantime, keep enjoying wrestling each and every week. Of course, tune in to Wrestling with Tragedy for all their great podcasts they're putting out. Of course, the Hameen Media Group with all their great content. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Hameen Media Group, as well as make sure you're also following at hameenmediagroup.podbean.com. Well, gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us. It's been my absolute privilege and pleasure to talk wrestling with you. And we will catch you all next week for the Next Level Wrestling Review. See you then.